reflection in the mirror.
What's up, everybody?
Doing this to myself. Losing my mind on a tiny error.
What's up, everybody? It's Friday night. It's the beginning of a new series, Conversations with a Vet. I have a special guest from the Caramel Conservative podcast on tonight. But before we get to anything, we're going to go ahead and listen to a little bit of this awesome beat I found today. It's by Tuna Beats on SoundCloud. It's called My Reflections. So check them out. It's definitely something to look forward to. But without any further ado, let's hit this bumper, y'all.
Mi gente, from Bayamón, Puerto Rico, via Dallas, Texas, it's your boy, the Conservative Papi.
What's up, everybody? It's Friday night, and we are live from the studios in Dallas, Texas, and via Skype today, I have my brother, my friend, the host of the Caramel Conservative podcast on Spreaker and iTunes, Ed Delgado. How are you, my friend?
What's up, brother? What's up? I am doing wonderful. I am living the dream. What about you, man?
Dude, it is nothing but dreamland over here. I'm growing, trying to do as many big things as I can without overexerting myself. But hey, it's life, so that'll happen.
Oh, it certainly does. And before I forget, I want to wish you and your listeners all a happy New Year, and your family and everyone else. Just wish you nothing but the best as we begin this journey, this excursion, this episodic endeavor into 2018.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. That's something new, and we've talked about this. I've been kind of telling you about this project that's been kind of close to my heart that I wanted to start off the new year with, and that's honoring people like yourself. People who served and bled for this country, who went in maybe some in selfish, but most in very selfless motivation to serve the country and honor everything in the military. So I really want to start off. Tell us your story. Why did you join? What branch did you join, and how long ago was that? And kind of really go into why you decided to serve, and if it was to pay for college or to do the greater good.
Well, and it's funny because when you look back, you see everything in retrospect, and hindsight's 2020, all rose-colored glasses. Growing up, I grew up in a military family. My father's a Coast Guard veteran, 26 years, so I was born into it. So I was already used to the military lifestyle, the moving around every 3 to 4 years, going from place to place, different schools. I mean, damn, by the time I was like 18 years old, I had been to more places than most people will be in a lifetime. As I kind of got to, as I grew up, I learned more about my family because not only did my father serve in the Coast Guard, but then my grandfather was also in the Army, and he fought during the Korean War. So me being a firstborn, I almost felt it was like an obligation for me to join the service, even though I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So being a military kid, I lived on a number of military bases. And I remember when we used to live down in Puerto Rico when they had a Navy base down there over there, Roosevelt Roads Naval Air Station, right next to the city of Ceiba. So we lived on the base, and this was between the years of 89 and 91. I was in high school still at the time, so I was at a DOD school. We're all military brats. And military brats, for those that aren't familiar with that, are kids that are military kids. And, the coolest people there, I mean, Seabees and the Navy people were cool. The Air Force people were cool. But the Marines, man, they were just real cool people. And they'd help you out. You were walking down the road, they'd be the first one to pick you up. And they tell you all kinds of stories and all kinds of good stuff. and things that they've been through. And it was like, you know what, if I'm gonna join a service, this is the one I want to join. And my initial plan was to join a service because at that time I was, thinking, hey, this would be a, great way to kind of carry on the family legacy, serve my country, and yeah, I'll go to college, and I'll go to officer school, and we'll do that. Well, what happens isn't necessarily what happens. So I ended up 18 years old. I got admitted into Marquette University in Milwaukee here. Not just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should do something. I was smart enough to school, but I wasn't mature enough to stay in. Some grades obviously suffered. And it was kind of at that point I realized, I need a real swift kick in the backside. And to me, that kick in the backside, that need to grow up, that need to kind of fill that void, which was, kind of carrying on the family legacy, was to join the service. And like I said, if I was going to join the service, I was going to join the Marine Corps. So that's what I did. And at the time, I'm 18 years old, I'm thinking, hey, I put a little money in here, I get money for school, and I get job training, and, it's all good. Well, you get a lot of promises from recruiters and stuff, and a lot of it's what you make of it. And I tell you what, man, my time in the service, there were definitely some hardships, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would not trade it for the world. So I ended up serving from 92 to 95. I was an administrative clerk. Nothing glorious, nothing heroic, nothing crazy. As a matter of fact, my first duty station was at a Marine Corps base, Hawaii. So you can imagine, for a 20-year-old kid who's stationed in Hawaii, I mean, life can't be that bad, can it?
Nah, man.
So,
You had it sweet and white, man.
oh, it was beautiful, but there was still a lot of hard work that went along with that. There was a lot of training, I mean, just because you were behind a desk most of the time didn't mean that you didn't have to do everything else there. And yeah, I ended up getting out at 95, ended up busting up my knee a little bit. Um, and it just was what it was. Injuries happen, and that kind of sidelined me after that. And ever since 95, I've been a veteran ever since.
Hey, man, that's good though. I think most people. I know I'm a military brat too, right? I never had the honor to serve, but I think I do know this, right? There's so many jobs in the military. From fixing cars to clerical work to even pharmacy technicians and pharmacists, doctors.
Hmm.
The military is not just shooting a gun. I mean, but
Right.
everybody deserves to have that honor that you did go through this fraternity of people, right? Now, within the fraternity, y'all bust each other's balls, but in all reality, you're part of a fraternity of men. Let it be Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force,
Mhm.
Coast Guard. You're part of a fraternity of men and women that, is in the top 3% of the nation, that served. So, my hat's off to you, my friend. I am drinking some water, so I am tipping my cup to you. And
Hey, thank you.
to you and all of the like you. And my brother, I can't say that I'm honored to be your friend, and I'm honored to have you on the podcast every time you get the chance. So, here's one thing I thought was awesome. And we're talking about this earlier today over the phone, just trying to go over all of this. Me and you had a conversation a while back, right? About doing our own podcast as kind of a duo, right? Doing a duo, and we were having this text conversation back and forth, and the back and forth was more about, Futurama and the doctor and how he says nobody's from this world, nobody's from this earth or something like that. And
It was, I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
and we came up with the silly name, and I came up with the silly name of Not of This Earth. So, from now on, for the conservative poppy audience, whenever you see the title Not of This Earth podcast, it's going to be an exclusive episodic series of me and Ed Delgado. Now, it's not going to happen all the time because there's so many other things we're trying to do with the conservative poppy podcast, but definitely, me and you, my friend, we're not of this earth. We're not the same class as most conservatives are. We're definitely unique. We're definitely I think in a lot of the same ways, but the same note, we're not stuck in our ways. We're open to
No.
debate, and we're to hit those issues most people aren't afraid to talk about. With that said,
Wait.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and that's the beauty of it right there, because, we are cut from a different cloth, and we don't fit nice and neat into the little, square holes in the round pegs or whatever, people want to try to box us into. We're that little bit that throws people off because a lot of people, they have a hard time wrapping their head around the fact of, conservatives of color. They have a hard time wrapping their head around a Hispanic conservative or a black conservative. So when we throw that at you, it's like, you know what? Every topic is fair game. And it doesn't matter if it makes you uncomfortable, because if it makes you uncomfortable because, well, you're either afraid of it or you're perpetuating it, well, we'll at least take it on.
Well, and we don't only take it on, we play it like a judo player plays his opponent, right? We tackle it, and then we switch it up, and then we tackle it again. And we're not afraid to go there. And I think as far as me and you, and I'm an avid listener to your podcast. I might not always listen to it live, but I definitely go back and listen to it on a daily, every time you go live, I definitely try to catch it. But you hit the issues that most conservatives are afraid to hit. We're afraid to hit those racial topics. We're afraid to hit, the politics of the day. I was talking to this about, on a Facebook live video yesterday with Maurice Delk. DACA, with the essence and what it's supposed to stand for, it's not a bad idea. Now, the way it was passed, it was horrible, right? How are you going to let an executive order be put into law without going through congressional approval? Now, yeah, I get it. There's certain rights that the president has, and he's able to do certain things, but to basically give amnesty with a pen is not the way to go. Do I believe those kids that were here since God knows how long, from the 1980 to 2012 or whatever that DACA legislation stands for, should they leave? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, if all they know is the United States, why would we kick them out? But you can't.
I'm so conflicted on that. I'm so conflicted on that because it's like, you're right. How do you blame, someone who is 2 years old for coming across? When their parents brought them, it's not like the 2-year-old or 5-year-old really has a say in the matter. But at the same time, let me flip this around real quick. So if I was a mobster and I made, millions of dollars stealing and, just doing whatever hustle I could, and I ended up getting busted on RICO charges, they confiscated all my wealth and everything else. Should my kids get my money because, they're used to that lifestyle, they're used to this here, should they get all the benefits of that, even though I broke the law?
That's hard to say.
It's hard.
It's hard, yeah, for sure. It's hard. I mean, I think we're talking about. I mean, you can make a. I don't know if your comparison is a valid comparison, because one is monetary. I mean, the other one is literally location, right? Location. Now you can say being in the right location puts you ahead of the curve of 99% of the world. True, but at the same time, I mean, you were in the military. You were like myself. Choice when your dad went off to Fairfield, or if he was shipped off to Germany or Japan. Did you have a choice?
Well, and that's kind of, like I said, on one hand, no, you didn't have a choice. But on the other hand, the parents ended up not just, like you said, there's the act of crossing the border, but then there's the false use of social security numbers. There's the number of other illegal white-collar type of crimes that happen when you're trying to apply for certain things. Working under the table, tax evasion, other stuff like that can be applied in almost any situation for an individual who's come across illegally and they're still trying to make money somehow. I mean, cross the border and not have a job, you know what I mean? So, I mean, then, like I said, that's what makes it so tough. Because how do you boot people that have been here their entire lives, or the majority of their lives, and this is all they know? But yet, at the same time, can you really reward them for, It's kind of like that judicial doctrine, fruits of the poisonous tree. The parents came over here illegally, therefore any gains at that point are ill-gotten gains. So it puts you in such a tough position because 19 what was it, during Reagan's administration, he did his whole blanket amnesty program. They're talking about trying to want to do another blanket amnesty. They've been talking about that for the last 10 years. This DACA thing seems like it's like blanket amnesty light. So is this just another rinse and repeat deal?
It's hard to say,
at this
right?
point, you use the kids to kind of pull at the heartstrings.
Well,
you listen to all the commercials.
That's
Go ahead.
politics 101, though. That's politics 101, right?
Oh, yes.
You don't mess with the kids and you don't mess with the grandparents. That's kind of the way American politics really goes, right? You don't mess with either one, because if not, you're the bigot. You're the one that doesn't want to take care of grandma. You're the one that's wanting to separate children from their parents. That's basically what the card that's being played. But at the same, with the same note, right? If we're gonna keep these kids, right, and some of them are full-blown adults. Let's be honest about that. But if we're gonna keep these kids, right, why don't we just enforce the laws that are already on the books? Give the kids two options: either wait your 10 years, do your residency, do your citizenship application, or go serve. Go serve. I'm sorry, we're doing honoring military people, and I want my fellow Latinos and my fellow immigrants who came through the DACA program to take advantage of the American dream. But I'm sorry, you weren't born here, so unfortunately, you're not gonna have the same process as if you were born here. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, and you bring up an excellent point, because you were the one that brought this up. I'm going to say this about 3 months ago, when we talked about military veterans that were being deported. Now, I know that there is a group of military veterans down in Mexico City that have served honorably and have been in like Afghanistan. I mean, they've been in the shit, and they've been on several tours. And then they end up coming back, getting discharged, and finding out they're going to get deported. See, to me, that's BS. You served your country. I mean, that's, service equals citizenship. Just like Starship Troopers. There it is.
No,
if you were willing to write that blank check.
There's way more to that story. There's way more to that story. That story, when they got out, they had to file paperwork that they elapsed time on. Now, don't get me wrong. I agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You serve equals citizenship. But at the same time, if the person who served is guaranteed citizenship, but he didn't follow through with the clerical side, is that the government's fault?
No, and you're absolutely right, and that's why as a conservative, you have to take a look at personal responsibility, personal ownership of what you got to do. That's kind of like applying for a bank loan, and then getting mad at the bank because you don't get the loan. Well, it would have helped if you had submitted the loan on time.
Exactly. I mean, it's my fault if I don't pay the car on time and my car gets repoed. Just saying. But
right.
It is what it is. It is what it is, and that's a sad story, because I don't want to see any U.S. military veteran on foreign soil not being able to come back to the land that they served and bled for. That's simple fact. I don't want to see that, right? But at the same time, it's just like the DACA and every other immigration legislation that might be coming down the pipeline. It's not only the person's responsibility to be in a legal status, but it's also, it's almost the government's responsibility is to curb immigration, because there's so many people now that it's hurting the resources, right? There's so much Medicaid, there's only but so much welfare, there's only but so much money to go around. So at a point, we're not in need of people, right? We're in the opposite. We have a surplus. Now, no people. That's not the answer. Don't think
You're not voting eugenics, are you?
No, I am 100% against eugenics. I'm against any genocide of any kind. I'm looking at it from a rational point of view. That's what the government is, right? That's what their job is. It's like, okay, so we have these resources that these people are going to need. They're coming here. While we want them here, can we afford it? And that's the name now. Now we're dealing with numbers and money, and now these kids, unfortunately, that in my opinion, they deserve to be here. They have legal status because they've been here for so long. Unfortunately, they're now in illegal status because legislation that the Obama administration passed basically in the dark of night with an executive pen instead of going through Congress and basically having the numbers to pass legislation. Because trust me,
Yep.
the way the political landscape is in America, you can't tell a Republican that no, if you play the race card against a Republican and they'll fold every time,
Oh, like a.
every time.
Mhm.
So if the
Well, part of the problem is that 10-year deal. That waiting period of 10 years. And honestly, if we're going to do any kind of meaningful immigration reform, then 10 years that's a hell of a lot to ask of anybody. And kudos to those that stick it out, go through the process, go through all the channels. But damn, that is ridiculous. 10 years, I get 2-3 years, four tops. Once you start talking 5 years, a full decade.
I say
I mean,
meet them in the middle, 5 years. 2 years
right,
residency, 3 year probationary period, and then you have your citizenship. Done.
yeah, and it's very simple. You know, don't commit any crimes while you're in that status. Hell, don't commit any crimes. Period. Get yourself a job, be self-sustaining, contribute to your community or society, whatever, or just take care of yourself. All the stuff that we all pride ourselves on. And you know what? You do that, that's the American dream right there. And what you do with whatever your gains are, that's on you.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a hard subject to really tackle, right? Because at the end of the day, these are people's lives, right? And
Yes.
we can't be as conservatives, and I'm a huge political conservative, and you know this. So we've had conversations about
Mhm.
this, not only on the podcast and your podcast, but we've had it in private. I'm a huge conservative, but at the same time, I don't believe that somebody who's who's trying to get away from a shithole, which is a great segue
Yep.
to the next subject, who's trying to get away from
There's
a
that word
shithole.
again.
Yeah, there's that word. Who's trying to get away from a shithole into a more prolific, a more progressive country, to not misuse the term, to do better for themselves. Why should they get punished? But at the same time, if you're going to skip the line, if you're going to circumvent the process, I get it. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and there should be some exception. I'm not saying you treat every
Hmm.
case black and white. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that U.S. immigration system and anything else that might come down the pipeline, be by building a wall or whatnot, it's a huge issue that needs to be dealt with, and needs to be dealt with sooner rather than later, because these are people's lives, and a lot of these people come to this country, overstay a visa, and they're not going to go back, because what are they going to go back to? You know,
Right.
and it's better being hiding in a country where you can get some McDonald's for $2 and go back home and scrape up something off the ground. Just saying.
Well, the problem is, though, is that those people that overstay their visas, those people that, and I get it, you want a better situation, because you don't see anybody, for anybody that says, America's so bad and we're the worst thing in the world, you try again, because why is everyone trying to get in? Nobody's trying to get out. I mean, not even Miley Cyrus actually left. Miley, Cher, all them others, they're all still here. So I get the fact that, we want to make our station in life better. We want to get out of this third world shithole. The problem is that when you come here, why do you not assimilate to American culture, however you define that, which is kind of an amalgamation of literally everything, while maintaining, this die-hard loyalty from wherever you come from. I get keeping your ethnic heritage, which you should do. Go nuts. But if you're saying one country is better than the other, then why aren't you at that country you think is so much better?
Unless that little island is Puerto Rico, because that little island is badass. Just saying. But then again,
But it is a U.S. protectorate, so we're good. We're good.
Hey, nah. But segueing into shitholes. So
After those hurricanes, it classifies.
segueing into shitholes. Did the president really say that we shouldn't accept people from shithole countries?
If I could be a fly on his wall, the things that we would hear, the things that we could talk about. Oh, I don't know. A couple Freedom Caucus Republicans say he didn't, or they didn't hear him. Couple Democrats say that he didn't leak it to the press. I have the inkling that he probably did say it. I don't think it's a big deal. Um,
Oh, you must be racist.
I am. Well, no, I'm not racist because I always said there's a clear difference between racism and bigotry. Racism is an institution that is put in place to set a group of people down. Bigoted is saying you come from a third world shithole. Fine, I'm bigoted. You got me. There it is. But no, in all seriousness, if he said it, yeah, so what? Like I said, you don't see people from Trump mentioned Norway, supposedly. We should be accepting people from there.
I don't know if I
I
want
don't see
people
a
from
bunch.
Norway.
Well, I don't. Well, I don't know either because some of the women are big, but
I mean,
the thing is, you don't see you don't see tons of Norwegians trying to like smuggle themselves in here. They got it pretty good over there. You don't see a bunch of French people trying to smuggle themselves in here. You see a bunch of Mexicans, you see a bunch of Chinese and Laotians and Cubans. They're all trying to get away. And what's the commonality that all these countries have?
they're shitholes.
They're shitholes.
Oh my
You
god.
know,
Okay,
well, a
let's
duck is a duck.
okay. Let me back my statement up a little bit because it's not that simple, right? It really
They
isn't.
have rich cultures, yes.
It's not that simple. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and I'm not going to say his name because I want to respect his privacy. But he is from Nigeria, right? And he took exception to what the president said, that some of these African countries are shitholes. And, now the guy has done very well for himself here in the United States. He's a full legal citizen. He was a fourth, he lived in England for a long time, and now he lives here, and he's doing very well for himself. So
Yep.
he's one of those guys that says, but I still have family there. Yeah, it's not as good as it is here, but it's kind of unfair to call some of these places shitholes when they're just people like you and me that are trying to do better. And I agree with him. Now, what I said was, if the president did say something, and he brought this up to me very, very casually, and he's a Christian mentor of mine. He's a brother in Christ. So when he speaks, I listen, right? He's just one of those guys.
Yeah.
And he said, if the president said this, he was like, well, it doesn't necessarily affect me. He said, it does give me a look into the condition of the president's heart. He was like, and he quoted a verse of the Bible which said, whatever spews out of your mouth, it's an overflow of your heart, of what's in your heart, what's in your soul. And as a Christian, I'm saying it over here, and I'm saying that's true. I can't argue with that. Now, do I believe President Trump is possibly bigoted? Is he bigoted? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it's his New York issue where, you live in a city like New York or Miami or Chicago where you just deal with so many different types of people and you bust each other's balls and it's not a big deal, right? So, for example, I grew up in Miami, full of Haitian people and Jamaicans, and I love my brothers from Haiti. By the way, Sapa se babule, my people. You know what I'm saying? I love them. I really, honestly do. No, I do. I love their food. I love it all.
Yep.
But it's when they themselves go, they would never go back to Haiti unless it was to bring food or bring clothes to their family. That says that the conditions of what we define in America as a shithole. Now, it's unfair because these are people that want to do better, right? They're resilient, they're rebuilding, and we can blame especially what's going on for example, Haiti. We can blame it on Americans, right? And more specifically, the Clintons.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. It's when you have the president of the United States, and I hate to tote the liberal line here because I don't agree with them on anything, but I think this is something that they might have a point on, even though they're still having autistic screams when it comes to the policies that President Trump is actually putting out and working. When you have the president of basically the world, which is America, right, saying that we don't want to accept people from shitholes while we, the regular street savvy people, know what he's talking about. How does that make us look, right? How he's the president of the United States. If he even, I doubt he said it, because if there's people saying no, he didn't say anything, and there's other people that said, oh yeah, he did say something, kind of hearsay. I doubt he said anything.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt any of this holds water. But the fact of the matter is, if he did say something like this, we need to really reconsider who's in the White House, because more than policy, more than legislation, the president's job is to do two things: unite and grow. To grow the American economy, put people money back in people's pockets, protect them, and unite people. At this point of his, I cannot speak today, guys. I need some.
That's all good.
At this point,
Well, let's flip the script though. Let's flip the script real quick here,
Okay.
because generalizations generally will hurt some people's feelings, whether they're justified or not. Let's not even look at the fact that they're justified, whether it's just a bad generalization. Let's not even look at that yet. But generalizations are just that. And if you're getting offended, generally when someone makes a generalization about a group of people that you're a part of and you get offended by that, then maybe you need to re-examine yourself, what your part in that grouping is. For example, Obama, I remember when there were several different times that he made a press conference after a police shooting of any number of times, where he called the police stupid. He said that they were acting foolish. It was a generalization. Now, were some of these law enforcement officers acting foolish or trigger happy or whatever? Well, I can think of that one case done in Minnesota in particular, Philando Castillo, but that didn't negate the fact that most of the other police shootings were, justified. So Obama goes out, makes his big generalization. The problem is it didn't apply to 99.9% of law enforcement. Most of the time when Obama spoke and he made his generalizations, do you remember the line about, bitter clingers clinging to their guns and Bibles?
Yeah.
So he's making his commentary about the world's largest religion, people of a Christian faith. So they're going to say things that are generalized. They're going to say things that some people are going to be offended by, or you could just let it just roll off your back. And I got to tell you, I've met a number of people that have come from Africa. These are some of the most educated, well-spoken individuals, some of the most polite people that you will ever meet.
Hell yeah.
But by the same token, they have a class of people down there that you should be on your knees thanking God that you would never cross.
But you
because
find
they
that
would make
everywhere,
the most
though.
fish. You find that everywhere. That is true. But by the same token, do you want, importation of that group of people? Or do you want that guy that's like, you know what? I'm a pastor. I'm a doctor. Yeah, I grew up in a hut. Ha, ha, ha. Let's make some jokes, Because I've known people who, they grew up in some of the worst conditions. And today, they're ballers. And they will laugh about it because, you know what? They survived those conditions. They made something of themselves. They didn't let life dictate what they were going to be. They took a look at what their life was in the shithole that they were in and said, you know what? There was something better out here for me. And I need to apply myself.
Oh, yeah.
So, you can sit here and get offended by everything. At this point, are the Democrats not going to start calling for safe spaces for anything Trump says?
Hashtag safe space.
Safe space. How about you do some hashtag adulting and get over it?
Oh, my God. Do it. Look, man. Look, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, Democrats are extremely sensitive to anything the president says. The president
Yes.
could pick his nose to pull out, something that's bothering him because he has a yo-yo on his nose. It's tickling him. If it's caught on camera, oh my God, he needs to look at a doctor or he's crazy. So the left is making there's no there for anything. There really isn't. Because if there was, there'd be, the tape out there. There'd be something to make the president look like a bigot. On top of that, every failed attempt that they're trying to do to impeach the guy, they have nothing. They have nothing. They're just trying to complain. They're trying to #resist, on something that really doesn't matter. But
Well,
dude.
and it's funny because you look at this particular story. This shit we'll call it Shitgate or Holegate or whatever. I like Shitgate, so I'm gonna go with Shitgate. But you look at that, and they're trying to make a story out of this, and they're getting their little cohorts and everything from CNN to MSLSD and everyone else to just rip this story to shreds and everything, and just kind of go to town with it. And that's all fine and well, but what is the story really a detraction from? Let's make Trump look like more of a bigot, and let's make him look horrible so that people won't focus on the fact that Walmart is increasing its minimum wage to $11 an hour and increasing its benefits and giving $500 to $2,000 bonuses. That there are over 100 companies now giving $1,000 bonuses. There was one CEO that actually went, I think he was on Fox News over the weekend, and he said, this money didn't come from our profits. This money came from the taxes we would have paid the government because we got the tax break. So therefore, we're going to take care of our people.
And
That's all Shitgate is. It's a detraction from what's happening.
And it goes back to the premise that I've made time and time again. It's the left cannot compete with the policies that are being implemented during the current administration, so they go back to character assassination like they always have. They did it during the Woodrow Wilson administration. They did it during the Bush administration. Now they're doing it against the Trump administration. The fact of the matter is that there's a portion of the American political spectrum that does not like sitting down and having the conversation. The only thing that they like to do is to assassinate and play the race card. And if Shitgate is just another thing to assassinate the president, which, by the way, the president needs no help. He does it himself all the damn time. Okay. Okay.
He does.
Okay, so he doesn't need help doing it. But the fact that you have major news sources like the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, and all these other alphabet networks and papers and whatever, they're not. He doesn't need help. Just look at his Twitter feed. Look, I was talking about with my wife in the last episode that I committed an experiment. I turned on the notifications for @TheRealDonaldTrump Trump Twitter feed. And guess what?
Why would you do that?
6 to 7 times a night, bro.
What time at night?
Bro, okay. So let me pull up notifications on my phone. See if I have them. So let's see.
See, Melania needs to take the phone from him at night and say, now it's 10 o'clock at night. We're going to take your phone away. You can get it back at 5 a.m. No, Donald, drink your chocolate milk. No Twitter for you from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Now sit there, drink your chocolate milk, go to bed.
Okay.
That's what she needs to do.
Oh, my God. But are you going to tell the most powerful man in the world he can't have his phone?
If I was Melania Trump, yeah. She's a woman. She has all the power.
Okay, look, let's be real.
I said it.
Okay, let's be real. Melania has no power in that relationship. She's just alone.
She really doesn't. she really doesn't. I know. Any normal relationship, it would be like, yes, honey. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Yes,
Look,
ma'am. Yes, my love.
In the last 24 hours alone, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tweets, not including retweets from @RealDonaldTrump. So Now, don't get me wrong. I'm on my phone a lot, especially since I'm putting with the day job, social media.
Right.
I'm pulling double duty, and this is getting ridiculous. What he's the president of the United States. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep. But we're not gonna get to that. We're running out of time. That's a whole other conversation. So Ed, real quick, brother, thank you much for coming on and kicking off the Conversations with a Vet series for the Conservative Bobby podcast. Tell my audience, how can they find you? Where can they listen? How can they interact with you? How can they send you an email? The whole nine. Tell them.
All right, man. Well, first, thank you for having me on. As always, I do appreciate it. Now, how do you find the Caramel Conservative podcast? You go to the website. That's thecaramelconservative.com. That's where you'll find me on Facebook, on Twitter, the blogs. That's the podcast is there. It's also on Spreaker. It's iTunes. It's Alexa. It's Echo. You can find me on Instagram just the same. How was it your boy says it? Twitter Insta book me.
There you go.
Is that what it is?
That's
yeah, I'm feeling good. But yes, you can find all of that there. And you know what, man? I'll tell you what, Daniel. Every time we're on, we got to do a longer show. And I hope that this sounds beautiful when we put it out there, because I think it's going to be awesome. And you keep being a stable genius. Hashtag that.
Oh man, I appreciate you, brother. Well, guys, I'm gonna play that tune I was playing in the beginning of the song instead of my usual outro. It's that the tuna beats, My Reflections. That's gonna be our lead over tonight.